We are going to go over solving systems of equations by substitution. It's kind of like, I don't even know why they have this on here, but we'll just go on with it. All right, to solve a system of equations using substitution. Solve one equation for one of the variables if it's necessary. So what it means is if you have two equations, you want to see if one of them is written in x equals or y equals form. And if they're not, you need to change it around, and I'll show you in just a minute. It says substitute the blank found in step 1 into the other equation and solve for the remaining variable. Substitute the expression found into step 1. The result will be one equation with one unknown. The reason why we're substituting in is so that we can get rid of having two variables. You need to just have one so that we can find out what the value is of that one variable. Then substitute the value found in step 2 into one of the equations and solve to find the value of the second variable. Write your solution as an ordered pair. Check the ordered pair in both equations to make sure that you got it right. Okay, those are the steps. Now let's actually go through and do it. Oh wait, here we go. Note that substitution is a good choice for solving systems of equations when one or both of the equations is solved for one of the variables. That's when you would want to use substitution. So here's an example. It says one equation is solved for one of the variables. So you know how in step 1 it said make sure if we needed to solve for one of the variables you did that? Well, it's already up here. It's y equals x plus 3. Okay, so this is the one that's y equals. We're going to circle what y equals, and you're going to put it into this bottom equation in here for y. We're going to make the y's go away. Okay, so right here is what I'm saying. We've got this equation that's in y, and we're going to put it in here for y, just like in a basketball game. If there are 5 people on a court, and if the coach is going to substitute me in, I'm going to go in for somebody. Well, do all of us get to stay in there, and now there's 6? Well, no. Once I go in, the other person goes out. So you're going to take what y equals, and you're substituting it in for y. You want to put it in parentheses just in case you need to multiply by a negative or another number. Now look, it went straight from this in the parentheses to down here. How did they get to negative x and negative 3, considering this is a plus 3 right here? Well, this is the same as saying negative 1. You have to do the distributive property. You have to take negative times x, and that's where we get a minus x. Negatives times 3 is a negative 3. Then you put your x's together. You combine your like terms. Now we have 2x minus 3 equals 5. What do you do from there? Well, let's get x by itself. Add 3 to both sides. And why am I adding? Because it says minus 3, and you do the opposite. Now I get 2x equals 8. Divide by 2, and x equals 4. Some people go, woohoo, we're done. No, we're not. We're not done yet. We only found the x number. So now you're going to take one of your two equations. It doesn't matter which one, but I'll tell you that the least amount of work is the one that's already written in x equals or y equals. So I'm going to take y equals x plus 3. We already know that x is 4. So you're going to substitute. X is going to come out of the ball game, and instead of x, we're going to have 4. So we're going to put 4 in there instead, and y equals 4 plus 3, so y equals 7. My solution is the x number and the y number, 4, 7. That's what we're looking for. See, we have two equations, and we're looking to find the solution. The solution is where the two lines intersect. Now to check it, take the first equation and substitute your two numbers in, just like it shows, and make sure that they balance. Do that with the second one as well, and make sure, that's how you can make sure that you got the correct solution. Here's the next one. All right, well, one of the equations is already solved for one variable. See, look right here, it says x equals 4 minus y. Okay, well, that's good. Now let's go. We're going to circle this, and we're going to put it in here for x. See, this is 2 times x, so let's watch this one carefully. See, I'm going to put the parentheses around the x because I'm only putting 4 minus y in there for the x. So I'm going to put that in there. See, the x came out, and instead the 4y went in there. Now, how in the world did they get 8 and minus 2y? Well, that's my hippity-hoppity distributive property. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times negative y is negative 2y. Minus y equals 14. Combine like terms, put your y's together. You get 8 minus 3y equals 14. We'll solve this like a regular equation. What do you do next? Yeah, you would subtract 8 from each side. And now we get negative 3y equals 6. Divide by negative 3. X equals, I'm sorry, not x, y equals negative 2. Be very careful that you keep the same letter the whole time. So now take one of your two equations. Again, the one that's already in x equals or y equals form is the easiest. We know that y is negative 2, so you're going to put that in there for y. Now, now this is a tricky thing. See how there's a negative in front of it? A negative times a negative is a positive, so that's why I have 4 plus 2, which gives me 6. So I believe my solution is 6, negative 2. So to check it, take the first equation and put the y number in there. See, because it said 4 minus y. And actually, I just didn't change the color for the 6. You put the x number and the y number in there and make sure that they balance. Do that for the second one. Same thing. I'm substituting in the 6 for the x, the 2 for the y. And then they check, and we know that we have the correct solution. Here's another one. And anytime you can pause the video and come back and see if you can get the right answer. Oh, these are both y equals. Now we could graph both of these or use a calculator and find our solution, find our ordered pair, but you also can do it by substitution. Now, here's your two equations. You're going to take, and it doesn't matter really which one you choose. They're just choosing the top one and they're putting it in there for y. So I'm putting it in there. So now we've just got a regular equation that we've been solving. We're going to move the x's to the left-hand side and the numbers to the right. Oh, I guess they're going to move the numbers to the left. It doesn't really matter as long as you get the x's to one side and the y's to another. So now you have x plus 10 equals 2x. So now you need to move that x over to the right. Well, how do you do that? You do the opposite by subtracting x from each side. And you get 10 equals x. Now we're going to go back and you're going to pick one of these two equations to substitute in for. I have a feeling they'll probably choose that first one. And they did. So now we know that x is 10, so we'll substitute that in there. And then 10 plus 2 is 12. So I believe my solution is 10, 12. So now we need to check though. We go up here on our checking. And you're going to substitute in your numbers, your 12 for y and 10 for x, and make sure that it works. Do it for the second equation. And it checks as well, so that means that our solution is correct. Here's another one. See if you can pause the video and figure this out and find our solution, and then come back and check. Well, here's your two equations. Take one of them, and they took the top one, and they're substituting it in for y. There we go. Now, canceling out those x's, subtracting x from each side, moving the x's to the right. Really doesn't matter which way you do it. So this is just regular solving equations. X equals 1. Well, now we have that, but we have to find y. So I choose the equation y equals negative 3. You could have done the other one. It really doesn't matter. Substitute in your number, and you'll find your y. So I believe that we have our solution, 1, negative 2. But don't go ahead until you check your answers in the equations. So in the first one, you're going to put in there your y number and your x number, that negative 2 and that 1. And it does work in the first one. Let's see if it works in the second one. Sure does. It checks in both of them. That means that I got my solution correct. Here's another one. Can you pause this video and come back and see if you did it correctly? Well, we're going to take what y equals up there and I'm going to substitute it in for y. So I just did that. So now I have negative x minus 2 equals negative 3x plus 2. Now, they moved the x's first. And they moved them to the left. You can do it either way as long as you move the x's to one side, the numbers to another, and it doesn't matter. You could have done the 2's first as well. Okay, so now you got to move the 2's to the other side. And you get your first part of the solution, x equals 2. Well, now, take one of your two equations. They're using that top one. Substitute that 2 in there for x. And got -4. So I believe the solution is 2, -4, but you must check it in your calculator to see if it's correct. The first one checks, and that's good. So let's do the next one. It sure does. So the solution should have been 2, -4. There's another one. See if you can come up with this answer. I'd pause that video. Now, first thing you look at is it x equals or is it y equals? Okay, it says x equals. So circle what x equals and substitute it in to the other equation for the x. See right here, it's drawing your line. Okay, so I substituted it in, and I get y minus 7. I put it in there for x. Now, how in the world do we get 6y -42? Well, 6 times y is 6y. 6 times -7 is -42. Then you just put the rest of the equation. Minus y equals -2. Put your y's together. And now I've got 6 minus y minus 42. And add 42 to each side. 5y equals 40. Y equals 8. Now, what do you do now? You need to find your x. So I have x equals y minus 7. Put the 8 in there for y. So what is 8 minus 7? 1. I believe my solution is 1/8. So now go back in and go up here to your equation, substitute 1 in for x, 8 in for y, and see if you got it right. So there's the first one. And it checks. Then you'll go and check the second one. Substitute in for x and y. And it works. So that means that you got the correct solution if you got 1/8. Here's another one. Pause that video and see if you can find the right answer. So what I'm going to do is you're going to circle what y equals. It didn't matter which one you chose. They chose the top one. And put it in there. Now, what do you do from there? We got to move our x's to one side, our numbers to another. They're going to move this one way, and you could move the 33, you could move the 7. It just depends. Just kind of work it out, moving the x's to one side and the numbers to another, and then see if you get the same answer. In this case, I subtracted 33 from each side first. So they had -4x equals x minus 40. Then they went and they moved the x's to the left-hand side. Remember, it's a positive x, so you have to do the opposite and subtract x from each side. So now you have -5x equals -40. Divide by -5, and x equals 8. Well, we only found half of it, so now what do we do? Take your equation one. It doesn't matter which one. Now, see, what they did was they chose the one that doesn't have any number with the x because that's less work. You could still do the top one. It doesn't matter, but this is a good one. And substitute that in there, and 8 minus 7. Hey, didn't we just see that? Equals 1. I think my solution is 8, 1. Make sure you plug it in to check it. Okay, it looks like it works in that one because we put 1 in for y, 8 in for x. Then you do the second equation. Sure enough, it works. It means I got the correct answer if I got the solution 8, 1. Here's another one. Try this one. Pause the video and then come back and see how you do. All right, well, maybe this will help you. Take that first step right there, and it has what y equals, and put that in there for y. So here's the first thing you should have. Now, if all you needed was that little boost to remember what to do, now pause the video and see if you can find out the answer from here. Remember, this number is outside the parentheses, so do the distributive property. So next, because that's where I come up with 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. 4 times negative 2 is negative 2x is negative 8x. Now remember to combine like terms. Put those numbers together. 2 minus 8. They're on the same side of the equation, so you don't do the opposites. You get negative 16 minus 6x equals 8. I'll move those 16 to the other side. Do not forget this negative. A lot of times people forget the negative 6x. Did you forget the negative in front of it? Divide by negative 6. X equals negative 4. Well, there's one of the equations that they chose. Now put x in there for negative 4 right here. So it would be negative 4 minus 2 times x. Instead of x, it would be times negative 4. Put it in there like that. Y equals 4. So your solution is negative 4, 4. Now go back and put them into your equations and check and make sure you did it right. So the first equation works out. Second equation works out as well. Putting them in for x and y, that means that my solution is correct. Negative 4, 4. Try this one. It says, Marcia got a new PS3 for Christmas. She wants to rent some games before she buys them. She found 2 options. The local store charges $8 to rent a video game for 3 days. A video game club charges $3 to rent a game for 3 days, but its membership fee is $50 per year. How many games will she need to rent in a year to make both options cost the same amount of money? You're looking to find where the 2 lines intersect. So you need to write the 2 equations first. So I know that x is the number of games and y is the cost. Now x is the number of games because see it says $8 to rent a video game. $3 to rent a video game. Well, what is it we're trying to do? We're renting a game. So x has got to be the number of games. So let's see, can we write the equation for the local store? What's the coefficient? What's the slope? What goes with the number of games? So at store 1, it's y equals 8x. And why is there nothing added to the end of this? Because they don't charge a setup fee or a membership fee. You just can go to the store and rent it for $8 for 3 days. This one, it's $3. It's cheaper to rent it, but you have to give a yearly membership fee of $50. So there's your 2 equations. Now, can you go from there and solve it from there? Find out what the solution is? Well, we're going to take this 8x and substitute it in here for y, and that's what they did right here. Can you pause from here and find out what your answer is? Subtracting that 3x from each side. X equals 10. The cost will be the same for 10 games. Well, wait a minute. That's great, but how much is it? Can you find that out? I don't even know if this does this. So if you take x to be 10, put that in there. 8 times 10 is 80. So for 10 games, it'll cost you, no matter what, between each place, it'll cost you $80. And because 3 times 10 is 30, plus 50 is 80. Well, I think maybe this is what they're about to do, talking about it. So figuring out which one. The club is not less expensive because they both end up being Oh, I see what it was asking. It was talking about if they only rented 8 games, because the last one was 10 games. Well, what they did was they thought that the store, or that the video club is less expensive. That the video club would be less expensive than the store. The video club is not less expensive because after you have that set up, that one-time yearly fee, only for 8 games, it is costs you $74. The store is only $64.